So, hi everybody. This is Harry from Oasis, technical product manager for Sapphire and OPL, and we're here today to talk with Apillon, who'll be presenting the work they've been doing in the embedded wallet space and to talk about what they're doing to solve the problems that we have in Web3 with user onboarding and key management and so on and so forth. So we've also shared a link with a form to submit questions. So if you do have any burning questions while we're talking, please submit them. And after presentation and some discussion, we'll get to those. So firstly, I'd like to welcome Nico and Damien from Apillon. How are you guys doing today? And would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, everyone. I'll go first. My name is Nino, and I'm a Chief Product Officer at Apillon. So I'm mostly responsible for not only integrations and what we're integrating, but also how we integrate this and what is the developer or user experience at the end of that specific integration or product that we're building. And I've been in crypto since 2017, mostly in product management positions. So yeah, that's me.
Hi everyone, my name is Damian. I'm the lead developer at Apillon. I'm working very closely with Nino to cover the product, and I'm personally responsible for managing the development resources, making sure everything is running smooth as for the development, making sure everything is working all right and everything is managed well. I've been in Web3 since late 2019, I believe. And I think what we're about to present you today is a very interesting solution that is going to bring forward a big step towards mass adoption. And thank you, Harry, for the introduction. So excited to go forward with it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how this is playing out. And you guys are building some really, really interesting stuff on the Oasis ecosystem, but also adjacent to the Polkadot ecosystem. And hopefully this will have a benefit to a lot of Web3 projects in general. So Nino, would you like to start us off with like the introduction to the project?
I'm just preparing the screen share, and we're gonna kick off right now. Just a second. Can you see my screen right now?
Yeah, we can see your screen perfectly.
All right. So without further ado, today we are introducing a new product that was launched previous week. It was built together with Oasis, so Apillon and Oasis. We kind of stepped together, envisioned this specific service and product. It's called Embedded Wallets, and it's definitely your grandma's new favorite wallet. So for these slides today, I specifically included what you can see on our landing page, what you can see in our promotional video. So we released this feature with a bang, and it is there's a reason why we put so much effort into how we communicate it and how we advertise it specifically, because we believe, like Damian already said, and me personally, looking at Web3 and from the perspective of a developer or a perspective of a user or from the perspective of managing this product, I believe embedded wallets are probably one of the best features built on Apillon from the perspective of how much they can change in the user adoption of Web3. So let's start this with defining a pain point, right? So you have this classic Web3 tale. You're either playing some Web3 game, or you want to trade some specific asset, and you have a friend next to you, and you're like, "Oh my God, dude, check this out!" And your friend tries to visit that specific link for that dApp, and the first thing that happens is when they press connect, they have no plugin, they have no wallet, and the onboarding starts. Well, unfortunately, comparing this onboarding to existing onboardings in Web2, where you come and just say log in with Google or Gmail, and you are immediately inside that specific dApp, in Web3, we were notorious to have these boring, long, and even hard to understand onboardings, where first you have to install some plugin, then you start configuring it, you see mnemonic phrases, there's a security pop-up, you should write these phrases down, etc., which we all know it's very, very important, but it's probably too tricky for users who are entering the Web3, because at that point their wallet is empty. So we identified, and I can say that most of the Web3 industry also identified that wallets and seed phrases are still a large or massive or the biggest friction point for non-technical people. It brings in additional complexity of wallets, seed phrases, and it's something the users coming from Web2 or coming from existing solutions like Instagram, TikTok aren't equipped to deal with. And comparing experience of using computers like 20 years ago, you still were in an era where sometimes you needed to, configure the IP manually. While today technology is just completely becoming seamless. So the same logic has to apply when onboarding into Web3. Obviously, all other solutions where you do not handle mnemonics or private keys on the onboarding come with specific security caveats. So this is what we try to address with embedded wallets, and that's how we met Oasis, right? So what we produced in this collaboration is an open source Oasis wallet SDK. Then the second outcome was embedded wallet SDK, which is specifically compatible with Apillon and Apillon dashboard, and standalone wallet as a service, which is also one of the services we provide within our dashboards. So you can easily log into Apillon, generate several instances which are kind of isolated, and you can then start onboarding users with separate dApps and have some control over what wallets are being generated, see those wallets there, etc. So we will show this in the demo which follows later. So how do embedded wallets look like? What is actually happening in the background? Essentially, again, you will see this in demo. It's completely seamless wallet creation. So the flow is built in a way where a user doesn't even have to know the wallet was generated, but has the full power and control over this specific wallet. So they're able to sign, they're able to send, mint NFTs, for example, and obviously also receive. It's using passkey authentication for secure access, and it's using emails for identifiers. So essentially, user would enter an email, a passkey flow would automatically pop up. And then depending on the device, if you're on a mobile or if you're on a laptop with a fingerprint reader, you can use biometrics to set up the passkey, which means you put up your fingerprint and the wallet generation starts. It is very cool. We'll see from the perspective of how it's built that it is self-custodial. So no one else has access to the private key, which gets encrypted into confidential smart contract except the user who generated the wallet. So it is at least as secure as MetaMask at this point. We have a table of comparison, like I said before. We're not the only ones who figure out that mnemonics and current onboarding to Web3 is full of friction. So a lot of wallets or embedded wallets or wallet as a service and similar solutions are popping up from really big players. But we found few of them like ThirdWeb, Dynamic, XYZ, Coinbase, and we put our solution next to them. Now, I'm not going to go through all the points, but the most important one that I see where we have a really huge benefit is a wallet scope, right? So if a user is to generate a wallet within our SDK or our embedded wallets flow, this wallet can be used in any other embedded flow used by the same SDK. While on the other providers, it's typically what happens is each time you log into a new dApp, a new wallet is instantiated, which on the long run, we can all suspect it's going to fragment users' wealth into several wallets across several dApps. And it's going to be very, very hard to consolidate all that wealth or NFTs into a single wallet. So it's right now, I would say our embedded wallets built together with Oasis are superior to what's out there, not only from the security point, but mostly through the usability and really long-term value into the Web3 onboarding space. So now we have an overview of how this works under the hood. Damian, would you be interested in maybe taking over on this point?
Yeah, sure. I can do that.
Go ahead.
So great explanation, by the way, so far. Thank you, Nino. So So under the hood, here's what happens. So when we require currently, without embedded wallets, when we require people to sign up or log in into a Web3 app, what happens? They need to have some sort of external plugin, whether it's a mobile app or it's a browser extension. And that's what we want to get rid of, because this is a huge entry barrier for users who are not so deep into the Web3 space. And what we require them is something they most probably all of us already have, which is an email address. And once they enter the email, they're prompted to create a passkey, whether it's on their browser or on their mobile phone, can be on any supported device. And then this is the combination of the identifier, so the user's email and their passkey. And this combination of data is sent to the smart contract on Oasis, which we call the account manager smart contract. And this is the smart contract which actually generates a new wallet for the user under the hood. And the private key is always stored in an encrypted manner and secure manner within the Oasis smart contract, and it's never externally accessible by any third party or any other entity. The user, of course, has a possibility to export this wallet, but it can never be accessed by anybody else and cannot be triggered to be used unless the user explicitly authorizes it with their passkey. So the only way they can use this wallet is they can prove they're the owner by providing the email address and the passkey combination. So I think now is a good moment to move on to the demo. It's demo time, and I'll go ahead and present my screen right now, so we can see start to finish how this works. So when you go to our app, which is located on app.apillon.io, so on our dashboard, this is where we have all our services. And our most recent feature is the embedded wallet. So you just need to go to the embedded wallet page, and here you can see, if you open this dropdown, you can see all the instructions here. So we also have a demo video that you can look at. You can browse through the slides and you can read more about it. We also have a detailed documentation which you can look at later on. And now we have this thing called an integration, which is like a container for your app. So let's say I have an app, and within that I can create multiple embedded wallets for that app. So you can go ahead and create a new one. You give it a title and a description. And an important part here is that you also have whitelisted domains. So if for example, my app lives on apillon.io, I would need to insert that here, because otherwise, this is the way I protect it from unauthorized access. So I already have an integration here. I'm going to open it up. It's my own app. And now in here, we can see I've already created 21 wallets this month. And we allow anybody who's on the freemium plan on Apillon to create 100 wallets per month. And this quota can be increased by upgrading our current plan. And here you have a list of all the wallets that were generated on my app. So all of the 21 I showed you, I can also edit the page size here so it's smaller. You can also see the wallets generated per day, so you can see what was the activity per day on your app. And finally, below we have some code snippets that you can use to implement this. So we try to make this as simple as possible and also as diverse as possible for many different types of languages and frameworks. If you go to our documentation here, we have some examples for many popular frameworks, web frameworks that are used in Web3, such as React, Vue, Next.js, Nuxt, and so on. But we also have some plain JavaScript and TypeScript examples. We also have support for multiple libraries such as Ethers, VM, and WAGMI for Web3. And basically, we have also multiple examples that you can take a look at here. But to get started, all you need is just this piece of code where you define your networks and you add that widget to your app. And now I have a demo app over here. You can see the code, right? The other window.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is all you need to do, like I said. So this is a base React app, and all you need to do is add this piece of code, which was mentioned on the browser, and you provide the list of networks that you want to support for your wallet. So since this is an EVM wallet that's generated, you can support, you can target any EVM network. So all you need to do is just provide all your networks that you want to support, along with their RPC URLs, the chain ID and name. And you would also need to, so you get this integration UID over here. You can copy it from our dashboard, and you would just need to paste it over here as such. And this is all you need, and you can just configure your UI anyhow you want. And I just have a very basic page here where you have a few buttons that do actions, and you can even see how easy it is to do actions here. You could, if you just have a button to do something, all you do is just you call the get embedded wallet from the SDK, and then you can do whatever you want with it. You can sign plain transactions where you give it your data. You can call smart contracts. You can transfer to other wallets and so on. So I assume most of the audience is not so technical, or maybe some of you aren't. So I'm not going to go too deep into the code. We can do a separate demo for that. I would just like to show how this app looks like on a deployed version. So you can all go to this website, nino.ninja, which is Nino signature website. And here's where we have hosted currently this demo that I showed you. So the code that I showed you is currently hosted here. And let's put this into action. So going back to what Nino said, and what I said also, all we need is just our email address. And when we click sign in, we're prompted to insert our email. And let's do that. I'm going to insert mine. But since I already used my main email, I'm just going to use a plus address. Let's say damianplusdemo@apillon.io. We press continue, and now what happens is I get a confirmation email to just check that the email is really mine. Let me go over to my email address. And here's the code that I just got. Copy it and paste it here. Oops, I think that's from earlier before. Sorry about that. I had another code. So this is the right one.
Yeah.
There we go. And now I'm prompted to create a passkey for this website. And this is going to be stored locally on my device, which means that nobody else can access my wallet and my passkey, even if they somehow get a hold of my email, of course. And now I can create it, and I'm prompted to present my fingerprint. And after this happens, now what happens under the hood is my combination of my email and my passkey gets sent to the smart contract, where it acknowledges it, and it uses it to create a wallet for me. And there we go. We just got our fresh new wallet, which is over here. I can copy the address. I can see it's valid. It's an actual EVM wallet that got created using just my email and my passkey. And this is the actual smart contract on the Oasis Sapphire chain, which if I refresh this page, we can see that 30 seconds ago, there was a contract made and the event was triggered that a new wallet was created. So that is successful. And now if we put this to use, so I have, let me open up my MetaMask where I have an account that has whoops. So I have an account on the Moonbase chain where I have some test tokens. And here we can switch between multiple networks, and currently I'm on the Moonbase testnet. So let's keep it like that. We want to see how this would work on a network outside of, any EVM network. And right now we can use the Moonbase testnet for this. So I'm going to copy this address and I'm going to send, let's say, 0.3 they're called def tokens. So that's the testnet token of the Moonbase testnet. So let's say we send 0.3 tokens to it. And while we wait for the transaction to complete, let's see a demo of how signing a message would work with this wallet. So traditionally, if I have MetaMask, for example, we would need to prompt the user to open their extension and click on the confirm, right? But now, since we have an embedded wallet, for the user to approve a signature, all they need to do is just present their fingerprint, and that's it. And now for, let's say, how it works to transfer a token. So let me copy this address back over here. And let's say I send this address 0.3 def tokens, and let's say I want to transfer back 0.1. And I just click on cross-chain transfer, approve. And now again, to approve the transaction, all I need to do is just present my fingerprint, and we can see the transaction was submitted. We can open this on the Explorer, and we see the transaction is pending, but is going to be eventually confirmed and finalized on the Moonbase testnet. So the important thing to mention here is that this is just for demo purposes, how we show the user that a transaction happened and how the user would interact. Right now, I had to externally send some funds to this wallet because the wallet was empty. But the important point is that the developer has unlimited flexibility here. They can decide to, for example, automatically fund the user's wallet after it's created. They can choose to, for example, not even show the user that there is a transaction under the hood. So there is so much flexibility that the developer can decide if this is a fully Web2 experience or it's somewhere in between, or they want to still do a Web3 experience but ease the onboarding and so on. So with this solution, onboarding can be improved and facilitated on many different levels. That's it for the demo. Thanks. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now, and hopefully that was fun.
I would like to add a little bit of context regarding passkeys, etc., before we move forward. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with passkeys and you just saw these fancy pop-ups with fingerprints and biometrics, thing is that passkeys have several authentication methods and they're highly dependent on the device the user is using. So this is not something you need to install. Every modern system has this. And let's say you're on a Windows and an older laptop that doesn't have a fingerprint reader. In that situation, this still works. You would probably get a similar pop-up without a fingerprint, but instead you would use a PIN, right? So it would be either 4 or 6 characters PIN that you make up, and the passkey is still generated. The wallet process is exactly the same, but each time you want to either sign or send or do some action with this wallet, instead of fingerprint, you're using your PIN. Now, moving this passkey logic onto mobile devices, where most of the modern world has really modern devices, then fingerprints and everything becomes totally seamless. I also tested with a combination of Windows laptop connected with Bluetooth to a mobile device, and the pop-up would happen on mobile device. So I could essentially still use my fingerprint on the mobile device, but enter a dApp with my desktop. So there are a lot of combinations. And what's really cool about passkeys, it's in the past few months, there were a lot of news regarding big players like Google, etc., who are looking into passkeys and giving them more and more and more support. For example, Google is thinking about changing their 2FA authenticator into passkeys. Additional support is coming from Chrome straight to the Android devices regarding passkeys. So you would be able to pass the request straight from Chrome to the mobile device without connecting with the Bluetooth previously. We all know how Bluetooth can be. And what I'm trying to say is passkeys are looking like a really future-proof way of building this. So this is what makes this feature really cool and what enables this seamless experience. Also, a little bit of context. So Apillon, we didn't do much intro here, but you saw networks like Moonbase or Moonbeam, etc. So we are primarily building our solution on Polkadot. And Oasis was one of the partners outside of Polkadot because it made total sense to build this on their chain, which is specific for these kind of solutions. But right now, embedded wallets are supporting all the EVM chains. We are looking to add additional support for Substrate as well, which means it would enable the same experience for all Polkadot wallets. So if anyone is out there listening and is interested in building on Polkadot as well, this will definitely come. And regarding passkeys, I obviously also forgot to mention the mobile number. So that's it from our side. I think maybe some questions would be there.
I mean, I'm just going to say, in terms of like bringing Substrate support to Oasis Sapphire, this is on our roadmap, but we need to get this done because there is a big shift towards passkeys, especially moving away from passwords, which, passwords can be stolen, and we need a more secure alternative. And it's almost like every website I log into, we now have password managers, and I have to generate random passwords, and I lose the database every now and then, and it's such a pain to do this securely. But with passkeys, the user experience, especially with the big players like Google, uh, Microsoft, they're making this really, really slick, really smooth, and it is the future. And I think it's really cool to get the security of the Android and iOS biometric authentication with the ease of onboarding of email registration, but without the security compromises of email. And then suddenly you've got a real Web3 wallet that can make real Web3 transactions on any EVM compatible chain. And again, hopefully, Substrate, we're going to get this done. But I do have one question actually. Like, do you think we can get away from emails? Like, are we going in the direction of biometric authentication? We don't necessarily need email anymore, especially with iCloud backup, iCloud login, synchronized passkeys across devices, that kind of thing. But what do you think?
Yeah, so personally, looking from the product standpoint, definitely we're introducing something old and something new, right? So instead of having a connect button, I think this is also a little distinction that we didn't specifically mention in the demo, but if you paid attention, it didn't say connect, it said sign in, or it said login, right? So the button is completely oblivious to the fact whether you already generated the wallet or not. There is no password, there is just an email. We're asking you just for the email, right? So if you are in the state that you never generated a wallet with this specific email, you enter an email, you get a new wallet. If you already interacted with this service and you enter your email, well, then you land on the wallet that you already used. So email here is an identifier and mimicking Web2 experience, so not really introducing too much new stuff. It's typically, you ask a user for email, and this provides, maybe additional capabilities where admins can reach out with transactional emails, send notifications to user like, we just airdropped an NFT to your wallet, go check it out, etc., etc. So we are in this hybrid mode of where you can do different stuff. And what we are introducing, so let's say email part is old, the new part is passkey. So for the first step, I would say this is really, really perfect position to be in. But looking forward, so just thinking about how does this actually work under the hood, it's basically endless capabilities. So we should, and we are already thinking about recovery. So how do we enable some sort of recovery for the user? Because obviously in this situation, if you were to use your mobile phone and you would lose it or break it, and that was the only instance of passkey, you would lose the access to the wallet. So this is probably the first thing we need to solve. The moment it becomes recoverable, let's say over the email, well, then it also become less secure, because then if I have an access to your email, I can already start the recovery and start, getting into your wallet, right? So it's quite complicated, and it's very questionable on what and when do we introduce this. I'm saying this because we don't have all the answers. We also understand that embedded wallets are really good at solving one specific problem, which is user onboarding, right? So when user comes and knows nothing about crypto and they can land there and start minting and fiddling and sending around, this is probably, first stage of a user, let's say of Web3 version, right? And at some point, we need to start thinking, how do we enable exporting of these embedded wallets into fully fledged wallets like MetaMask? Can we create something inside MetaMask which with one click and passkey, now user is upgraded and they are now living in MetaMask as well? Because this will come. They will want, additional flexibility, or they will want additional features. And it's really questionable if this really fits into the embedded wallet flow as well. So these are all the dilemmas that need to be solved in the next few months.
That's a really, really good point about the onboarding experience for Web3 at the moment is, okay, go and install this plugin for your browser, and then
Yes.
Chrome pops up and says, this plugin can read everything on every website, big scary warning. Then you install MetaMask, and it's like, okay, you need to engrave your secret key on these iron tablets and bury them in different gardens so that when the apocalypse comes, and it's just a very scary onboarding process. But in terms of like the next billion users, I do see that like Web3 is its own problem to adoption, you know, where to onboard the next billion users, we need to not be Web2 or Web3, but just the web. And I do think products like the SDK from Apillon for wallets, for onboarding, having these decisions thought through really well about okay, as a developer, I don't want to have to go through this process again. I just want to get an SDK, install it, and there I've onboarded my user as quickly and as simply as possible with all of the security considerations thought of. But do you see any other sort of challenges on the horizon about the migration from Web 2 with passwords to Web 3 with pass keys? What's next? Big
It's
question.
yeah, it's a really good question because a lot of things dwell down to user motivation. We all remember, I don't know, 2016, 17 of first real bull market where you had ICOs with 20-paged PDFs of what you have to do in order to invest, right? So, and users, you had like really old people and people in pension who aren't technologically prolific, but they went through those instructions step by step because the motivation was super high, right? And now as things change and we become more and more part of the typical web, part of the internet as we are, even though it's Web3, Web2, there is, like you said, there is no distinction, which means we need to be in pair of the experience that there is in Web2. Now, the reason why this is happening is, let's say the genesis of Web2 was what, 20 years ago, birth of MySpace, YouTube, Facebook, etc., right? So now you have this Web2 coming up. People can start manipulating the websites from their end, from their browser. You have this dynamic web, and you have 20 years of tooling development, right? Of millions of developers constantly coming back and forth and building better experience. And then we come with Web3, which changes a lot because we introduce blockchain, which is immutable, which is a huge friction point and UX issue in itself. And now we have like, what, 3 years of trying to solve the wallets issue, and now it's solved, right? So we solved only a tiny little thing, which kind of, solves the onboarding part, and everything else remains open. So I would say, yeah, this is the first step. Now we just need to apply the process. So deploy this, see what's happening, measure stuff, figure out, iterate, go back, improve, and just keep repeating the cycle. And that's the only way we're going to figure out what's next for embedded wallets. We need to see what the first generation or the first cohort of users do with these wallets. Are they becoming active? What's happening within those wallets? Do they have NFTs? Are they actually spending and sending stuff? And how can we motivate them and integrate this even better to be, really seamless? So I would say this is the approach. I don't have the answers, unfortunately.
As you said, we're all sort of focusing on our own little space within the ecosystem and saying, yeah, I can help to solve this bigger problem that we have. And you've been in the space for a reasonable amount of time. I mean, is there anything out there that you're saying that, like, please, somebody else, can you just solve this? Because I don't have the time to do that because I'm trying to focus on, making user onboarding work, making passkeys work, like fingerprint. I just want to touch the phone and it works like everything else, right?
Yeah, I sincerely believe, and that's why I said in the introduction, this is one of the best features we've built. Not just, what is a best feature if you're a development platform. It's kind of tricky to measure, but from the impact point of what this really does for your experience in dApp, it's massive. It's a game changer. And I don't usually use superlatives, for what we are building, but here I'm trying to be objective. And then if you put on the other side the question of security and how secure this is, there are no compromises compared to MetaMask. We could even claim it's more secure than MetaMask, because MetaMask, if you don't really, if you have the same password for everything, it's quite risky. And then the third side is the developer experience, right? So we checked the user experience, we perfected it. It's really good, we believe. There are no security compromises. It is self-custodial, and the developer experience is trivial. You just install an SDK and you insert 50 lines of code, 50 lines of code which are already there, and the thing works. So this is why I believe this is a really, really good feature.
I think what Harry said previously was pretty powerful, and I would just want to revisit that for a second. That at which point do we stop saying we are Web 3 and they are Web 2, and have this kind of separator between us, and just make it, call it the new web, the new generation of web, right? Because I think back when there was this transition from web, the original web, which is like read only and website that you can't interact with, switching to Web 2 sites that you interact with and they're live and you can store data on it. So there wasn't this way of thinking that we have a new generation of web in terms of they are Web 1, we're Web 2, but it was just a new and better way to interact online. And I think that's what needs to happen with Web 3. And this is a big step towards that, where we just create the new generation of web without there need to be a separator where you have the non-technical users, which are still too scared or it's too hard to migrate or to start using and interacting with Web3. And I think such solutions that we built and we work on, it's only part of the architecture and the infrastructure. So the point is that if somebody is comfortable with using just a password, okay, we'll give them all the possible recommendations and explanation why it might not be recommended. But if that's the end all be all for them, then let them use passwords and make them comfortable with it. And we can find a solution where they can use passwords and still make it secure and still make it recoverable. And they need to be aware, of course, of the security risks. And I know there's a lot being spent and invested on educating the people, and that's also a very big part of that whole transition to a new generation of web. But as long as we keep introducing solutions that make people's lives easier and make them just want to focus on their experience and using the app itself instead of spending this whole process of getting to the first step of using the app, then we can definitely make a big contribution to the bringing us to the new generation of web itself.
I 100% agree there. I will go a little bit off track very quickly, but you guys are from Slovenia. I've just come from Ljubljana. It's for the size of the country and the size of the city. You guys are punching above your weight in terms of it's a beautiful modern city, the lovely weather, and just the tech scene there. I mean, is there anything else you can tell us about, Web3 in Slovenia and Ljubljana and the tech scene there, or maybe, the background to your company and
Yeah, so Slovenia is a 2 million population country. That's for anyone out there listening to have a little bit of context. And Ljubljana has around 250K, something like that, plus minus. But in 2017, at some point, I think Slovenia was first in the world in crypto per capita, right? So at that time, crypto was everywhere. We had ICOs, successful and less successful. Everything was happening. A lot of developers happening within Ljubljana and Slovenia within blockchain space. And a lot of it's accounted to Bitstamp. Bitstamp, one of the first real exchanges. It was born in a garage in Kranj, which is like 20 minutes drive outside of Ljubljana. And I think this kind of kicked things off and put us on the map. And it started to incubate people who would then later enter and start developing their own projects. Soon followed with Economy, which was in 2016 one of the first ICOs out there, really reaching skyrocket amounts of what they managed to raise. And this just started to snowball. So once you have a culture of people and enough developers for critical mass to be successful in crypto, well, then you have like I said, critical mass to start passing the knowledge. And you also have the capital. And once you have both, well, then this kind of happens. So right now in Ljubljana, we have, I would say, 5 or 6 companies who are established and working really well within crypto. We have several meetups. We have Ethereum Slovenia. We have, with Apillon, we are doing Polkadot events, let's say once a month. Typically, it's a free event with 50 to 70 people joining, where we do, either mingling, etc. So the culture is very much alive, regardless of where the market is. Stuff is being developed, and there are a lot of smaller companies like market makers, etc., which aren't necessarily big names that everyone knows, but they are here, and we can rely on local providers for such things, and it's great.
Yeah, so I think let's start wrapping this up. And thank you very much for talking today and answering some interesting questions. And yeah, the big problem of how do we onboard users, how do we make it as quick, as seamless, as easy as possible. I really hope that Apillon and Oasis together we can solve this, and we can make it easy for developers. And on that note, I should note that we are going to be in Bangkok in Thailand later this month for DevCon 2024. Oasis is also sponsoring the ETH Global Hackathon, so that's from November the 15th to November the 17th. So please take a deeper look at Oasis and our encrypted confidential EVM, that's Oasis Sapphire, especially when you're thinking about what to hack on at ETH Global. Yeah, we'd really appreciate that. We do have some really good prizes as well. Of course, we're going to be on the ground there, we'll have support, and we're really interested to see what happens. So yeah, I think keep an eye on our socials as well, both Apillon and Oasis, for updates. We're going to be at several events in Thailand. On the Oasis side, we've got Super Intelligence for everything around AI and AGI related, and then we have the afternoon TEE party, which is all about trust execution and the next generation of Web3 and privacy and confidentiality, which of course Apillon are taking full advantage of here. So yeah, thank you everybody, and thank you Nino and Damian for talking to us today. And I think yeah, thank you everybody for watching. So goodbye, ciao.
Ciao, everyone. Thank you, Harry. You're a great host.
It's been good to host you today, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, ciao, bye.